Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about a very famous game. It's called the 16 Soldiers game between Go Seigen and Kosugi Tei, played in 1933. By the way, on the site, it also says AlphaGo loses to Sato. I think that's the biggest butchering of name that I have seen. But let's get started. Kosugi is playing as black and Go Seigen is playing as white. The game starts out like this, where Kosugi immediately takes the Tengen, right, after 2-3-3, which is very creative and unconventional. And here, Go Seigen decides to split into this moyo right away, right? This is like the center of the triangle. I think it's a good move. Kosugi decides to split as well. And the next move, Go Seigen plays out a very unconventional move. I don't even know how to call this move. I would just call it like cutting the two stones off, in a big way. And the next move, Kosugi didn't care about what's going on here and just plays out another splitting move. Of course, it's a very big move. And Go Seigen follows up with the same type of move. And this is what made this game so famous. Because Go Seigen's idea is trying to isolate the stone in Tengen and try to attack it from all directions. Kosugi plays another splitting move. And of course, we all know what the next move is going to be. Go Seigen plays another move like this. Right, and this is it's a very beautiful game in terms of shape. And now, of course, Kosugi is a little worried about the Tengen, right? After these guys are just like dancing around it, you got a little scared and you jump in the center. And here Go Seigen plays out the shape move, right? This is a joseki move, but also it's kind of connecting the two stones over here. So I just want to add a side note. I feel like a lot of my viewers have encountered players who play like Go Seigen, right? And then what's really frustrating is that you kind of know your opponent not playing the best move, but you still lose the game, right? But don't feel bad because Go Seigen is playing like this. So it's not like this could be played, right? It gives Go more freedom, and it's just more fun to play like this. Now, white plays out a joseki, black blocks, and white extends. Now, the reason black decides to push in this direction is that if black pushes in this direction, then white will extend out. Black plays the keima, which is the joseki, and then white will turn here. The result of this is we can see that this stone is quite well placed, and Kosugi didn't want that to happen. In the actual game, Kosugi decides to push on top, white extends, and now black plays out the keima. Now, Go Seigen obviously can't turn here because this is pincered by the stone here, right? This would allow black to come up, and all of a sudden we can feel like this stone will be under attack in a bit, but these guys also have to run. Of course, the choice here is for white to simply connect everything. Makes a lot of sense. And now the next move, Kosugi decides to play the one space jump. I personally don't quite like this move. I think it's quite slow. A better move is for Kosugi to play the big keima. I think this is a shape that existed for a long time. So it's not like Kosugi didn't know about this shape. It's just that in this game, Kosugi wanted to play really solid. But of course, the problem with you playing really solid is that you're very inefficient. All right, next move. Go Seigen really follows up with the idea of attacking the two stones in the center by playing this move over here. You can see that the exit over here is kind of blocked. And Kosugi feels the pressure, therefore he jumps in the center. White now comes down, destroying the territory black could have here. Black plays a 2-space extension to deal with the stone. And white now plays another 2-space extension in the center. And it's just a very beautiful game to see from Go Seigen. So, of course, objectively speaking, right, when white plays like this, of course white is going to lose a little bit of a win rate. But you'd be surprised at how little white lost in terms of win rate. Actually here, like AI would probably still say this is like 50-50. Maybe white lost the initial lead of like a 10-9%, right? But at this point, the game is still very equal. So black has to be very careful as to where to play. Of course, in this game, there's no komi. Of course, black is leading because of that. But if there was komi, this would be an equal game. Because even if black got a lot of territory on the outside, the fact that this group is always insecure, right, throughout the game is going to be a huge problem for black. And also, all these stones might become targets of attack because white controls the outside. All right, let's see what happened in the middle game. So the next move, Kosugi plays rock solid by playing another 2-space extension, settling the stone over here. And Go Seigen plays another 2-space jump. We've seen so many 2-space jump already in this game. And really, this is just artistic by Go Seigen. The next move, Kosugi decided to slide into White's territory a little bit, but also like give himself a little bit of space. And at this point, Go Seigen comes back and take a third line move. Now the reason Go Seigen cannot just keep playing in the center is because at the end of the day, Go is still a game of points. So you still have to play something practical like this, right? You can't just be like, hey, let me play here. Well, this is an investment, right? Like this is a very beautiful looking move. But can you really catch the 3 stones over here? Can you really allow Black to play something like this? The answer is probably not, because Black is really ahead in terms of territory. So White comes back to get some territorial balance back into control. And the next move, Kosugi plays the bump over here. This would be the first mistake in the game. And if you were a mid-dan to high-dan level player, it's pretty obvious why Black's bump is a mistake, because it's simply too slow at this point. Of course, Go Seigen is one of the best players of all time. Expecting him to just pull the stone back is very unrealistic. In the actual game, Go Seigen plays the Kosumi, an excellent move, partially protects the corner, but also putting maximum pressure on the 2 black stones on the left. Now the 2 black stones on the left feels a lot of pressure, especially because White has an extra stone over here. In the actual game, Kosugi plays out the Kosumi over here to protect the shape. I feel like I just said Kosumi played out the Kosumi here. But anyway, Kosugi plays out the move over here to protect the shape. At the first glance, it does feel like a good move because it protects Black, right? When you're getting attacked, you want to play a solid move. And this is played by a professional. But at first glance, I can already tell that this move is problematic because it's not following any principles of invasion. When we are invading our opponent, we want to follow 3 things. Counterattack, right? We want to counterattack, so our opponent has to worry about his weakness, and then that allows us to get out. We also want to attach to our opponent, right? When we attach to our opponent, we can make shapes easily. And the third principle is to play a move that gives us as many options as possible. When Black plays the Kosumi, obviously this is not about attaching or counterattack, right? It's a pure defensive move. But does that really give Black a lot more options? Not necessarily, because you could have jumped out over here, right? But after this move, you still have this option, right? You could have come out through here without a stone, but it's the same options as before. So for players, for my viewers who are in the single-digit queue, low-dan level, a lot of times you might encounter this type of situation, right? When you're playing against someone who's stronger than you and who just plays like Go Seigen, right? It's not easy to deal with, actually. So let's do an exercise, to help Black find some sort of ways. And I don't have an accurate answer. I just want to have this as a discussion so we can become better at doing this type of logical reasoning. So first of all, we need to look at the attach, right? Can we attach into White? Obviously, this is rock solid. We don't really attach it over here. Can we attach over here? Now, this attach would not be a great idea because White can simply block. When you pull the stone back, I can play out the tiger's mouth. This really strengthens White over here. It's true that your group is safer, but it comes with a huge cost because next move, if White plays out Kosumi, the corner is pretty much enclosed, and this is all White's territory. So playing the attach and pull back in this type of situation is not very good. And I've seen a lot of players online do this just to secure, just to have some safety. But this is not a great idea, especially when White's stone over here is very weak. So can we play a move that gives us as many options as possible? I mean, Kosugi has tried, right? He played this one, but it didn't really give us any options. And what other moves can we play? Maybe jumping here, it's an interesting move, but it doesn't really fix all the problems that Black has. This formation is still pretty weak. White can later on, looking at the peep over here, White can probably first, pull the stone back, right? Looking at the weaknesses that you have on both sides, and it's still not pleasant for Black to deal with. So it's an okay move, but it doesn't really get us out of trouble. So now we have only one principle left, that is to counterattack, right? And there are two very interesting counter-attacking point. One is for black to hane here. When black plays out the hane, it weakens white's stone here, and therefore it's breaking the formation that white has. So instead of us running, we're putting a lot of pressure on white stones over here, right? Because later on, if we go into the corner, we can see that these two stones are not alive, right? But if white spends a move to protect, for example, then we can, because we have a stone over here, this would make us a lot safer. So this is a very interesting counter-attacking spot. Another very interesting counter-attacking spot is for black to invade over here. This would also be very interesting because with this stone, we're pressuring white's corner, we're pressuring the stone over here. And we can see that white's formation over here is pretty weak. And therefore, with a stone over here, we have the possibility to attack attack several of these stones. And we also have the possibility to slide back with the second line attach. So this is a very interesting move as well. And this is what Kosugi should have chosen, right? One of these two. When you're playing this passive against Go Seigen, this is not going to go well because Go Seigen is not making any obvious mistakes, right? And he's just such a great player. So playing passive is not a great idea. The next move, Go Seigen takes this opportunity to attack the center. And black decides to bump into white, right? This is trying to protect the shape because Kosugi was obviously worried about the Kosumi over here. So black played, this move over here. But instead of protecting over here, once again, Kosugi should have played more active. For example, this is also a great time for Kosugi to stir up some chaos over here. Because I'm stronger here, right? I have invested over here. This makes the invasion even stronger. Against this invasion, if Go Seigen attaches on top, then black can simply bump into white and hane. White hanes, black cuts, white connects, and black now connects. Now we can see that by playing like this, black was able to destroy some territory while making this group really strong. The reason black wants to add extra security is because later on, white has the possibility to still play something like this. If you block, I can Kosumi and come back, means that your group is still floating in the center. So when black invades, another way for white to play is to play Kosumi over here. That prevents the connection on the second line and cutting black off. Now black will also play out Kosumi, looking at the attach over here. White jumps to protect the shape, and then black plays out the Keima, right? Black is really playing active and go for the counterattack. Go Seigen will probably play the elephant eye, black pushes, and white pulls the stone out, and at this point, black can attach into the corner. If white does not want to fight, white has to extend over here, which allows black to claim a lot of territory. But if white hanes, then obviously black will do the crosscut. And I think this will give Go Seigen a bit of a headache because this is quite complicated and black feels quite strong here fighting. In the actual game, Kosugi really is playing very slow and very cautious in this game. And this allows Go Seigen to really gain an advantage, right? Because when you're playing slow and inefficient, that's where you will slowly become behind. All right. So now Go Seigen plays the peep, and Kosugi should have connected here, right? Of course, this is not professional's first intuition, but connecting over here is very important because it ensures that white is also super weak over here, so you can counterattack later. In the actual game, Kosugi plays out the attach, white hanes, black pulls the stone back, and Go Seigen plays the Kosumi again. So yeah, in this game, I guess Kosugi is just not playing that well, right? As a professional, I have said that when you attach over here, right, and you allow your opponent to play the hane and later on tiger's mouth, this really allows white to strengthen the corner while you're just passively defending this weakness over here, right? Once again, the idea is for us to counterattack, but Kosugi clearly did not have that idea in mind, and he just plays very passive. This is not great exchanges. Now Go Seigen plays Kosumi, right? The next move, there's a pincer coming in. So Kosugi had to, make sure his group over here is comfortable. White peeps, black blocks, and now Go Seigen decides to cut in the center. Kosugi plays out the shape move to try to make an eye over here. Very passive throughout this game. It's just very difficult to win games like this as black. And I guess this is a very classic example of how you shouldn't play, right? If I was gonna, if there's something you need to learn is to not play like black in this game. No counter attack, all defensive moves, and yeah, like when you're not following any principles, you'll just fall behind because your opponent is a professional. He doesn't blunder, and you have to play more aggressive in order to catch some opportunities. When you look at Go Seigen's play, it's all very active, right? Now it's a peep over here looking for an attack. So black can only defend here. White push and cut. Black connects. White turns on top. And black comes back to block over here. The reason black cannot jump over here is because white can push and cut. Because of the outside stones, black cannot fight this. Black is collapsing here. If black saves the stone on top, then obviously when white bumps here, these two stones are captured. So black can't even jump here to make himself live in a very comfortable way. Black has to come back and kill the two stones. White plays the tiger's mouth. Black turns. White double tiger's mouth. Black peeps first. White connects. And now black comes back and connects just to capture the two stones here. White Hanes. Black Atari. And Go Seigen plays out the second line move. This type of move for a professional player feels so good. It's endgame. Right? The endgame is absolutely huge, but it's also threatening the life and death that black has over here. And next move, black had to jump over here just to create an extra eye space. This is very miserable. Like we can see these exchange, it's a lot of gains for white in terms of points. This is generating almost no points, but this is so many points. The next move, Go Seigen very naturally come back and play the tiger's mouth, and all of a sudden we have a beautiful corner on the bottom left. It's so well played by Go Seigen in this area. And this is so sad because the next move, Kosugi had to play a move over here just to create an extra eye. I would feel very painful playing this game as black, right? And even if yes, black managed to live everywhere, but this is just not gonna win, right? This is so bad exchange, right? All over the place, and slowly you're just gonna lose this game. The reason black had to play such an inefficient move just to live is because when white connects over here, black's eye is white can pretty much black has to deal with this, right? For example, if black doesn't deal with this, then white can Atari and throw in, and white only has black has no eye basically, right? But if black answers this, for example, if black takes, then white can throw in again. You can't really block, so you have to play like this. White goes in, and you connect. We can see that black only has one eye over here, right? White can destroy everything in Sente, and now white can come here and try to kill black, right? This is not really an eye. And the reason white can't do it right now is because white is not thick enough. That's why when white plays out, in the actual game, when white plays out this move, this is aiming to kill the group over here. That's why Kosugi plays out another move, making sure that he's solid here. So this is not the wrong move to play, but it's just very miserable that you have to play that. And Go Seigen comes back. The whole game, Go Seigen is just leading in terms of momentum, right? We got a victory over here, and then Go Seigen comes here to punish your group over here. And Kosugi plays out the Keima. And once again, this move is not a great move because it's not following any principles of invasion. Maybe here a better choice is for black to go for a counterattack by haunting here, putting pressure on white, and try to make some shape over here. Right? When we are following the principles of invasion, things cannot go wrong. So here, if white decides to cut, then black can extend out. White has to save the stone in the center. Here, black plays the shape move first to prevent Atari. White blocks, and here black can Atari. The ladder doesn't work, but black can clamp over here, can net over here basically. White cuts, black Atari, white takes, black Atari once again. White has to take in the center. This is all force. So yeah, the center, it looks terrible for black, but black can now wedge to try to kill white over here, right? This would make the game very chaotic for white as well. So when you play like this, that's how you can win games. That's how you can, challenge professionals like Go Seigen. And same goes for my viewers, right? Like when you're playing, you're 4Q and you're playing against a 1Q, and if you just play passive, it's not gonna work. You have to drag your opponent into chaos, and that's how you can achieve good results. This is not what was played. Playing a Keima over here puts absolutely no pressure on Go Seigen. Go Seigen just jumps over here, right? All of a sudden, your groups on both sides will be bullied because, they all have to worry about life and death. And that's exactly what black played, right? He has to, play moves to take care of the group, and it's just very painful. And here, Go Seigen plays another Kosumi. And the next move, Kosugi can't even block, right? This is so much loss in terms of territory. If you block here, Kosugi was worried about later on there's a more serious problem. So he's right. He had to defend like this instead of blocking. But once again, Go Seigen managed to be so ahead with another beautiful exchange. Next move, white honeys, black extends, and white now attaches into the corner over here. And these guys also feeling a lot of pressure because previously I said that white's connecting over here is a sente against this group, right? So when white connects over here, right, you have to answer, then white can hop like this, right? With 2 stones over here, you can play the super monkey jump, and this really gets rid of black's ice space. So with that in mind, Go Seigen plays out the attach over here. White honeys, black honeys, white honeys, and black had to connect. And at this point, instead of, bullying once again the corner, Go Seigen decides to find another target to attack. Attaching over here, putting pressure on the 3 stones over here. Black extends out, and white blocks. And here, black has to slide into the corner. So at least this is not so terrible for black. Black managed to get some territory. White attaches, black honeys, white cuts, black Atari, and this is all forced. Go Seigen managed to use this sequence to protect the corner in sente. And then, Go Seigen comes back and turn over here. And this is obviously a huge move that encloses many points. Black now has to jump on the second line because otherwise, when white jumps, this is also another chunk of territory. Black jumps, and Go Seigen comes back to connect over here. So finally, Kosugi realizes that he's behind, therefore he tries to fight Go Seigen, but it all seems a little too late. Go Seigen is very good at fighting, so he crawls on the second line, black extends, white connects, and absolutely nothing black can do. Black jumps over here, white pushes. This cut doesn't work because black only has 2 liberties left. Therefore, he had to play the tiger's mouth. Go Seigen simply connects, claiming all the territory, and then black decides to drag the stone out to fight in the center. But Go Seigen handles that quite well by simply extending 2 times. And at this point, when black honeys, white honey, black plays the tiger's mouth, and Go Seigen decides to not go crazy here and just play the monkey jump. Black attaches, and white turns in the center. Black Kosumi to save the 3 stones, and white plays the triangle. When black plays the tiger's mouth, white connects in the center. This is looking at the wedge in the center, so black has to get back with the bamboo. And white comes back to block the territory in the center. Kosugi plays the honey connect. Before the connect, black plays the honey, white honeys, and black connects. And here, white simply comes back to capture the stone over here. I think this sequence is well played by black because black managed to get the honey connect in sente. And finally, black comes back to block over here to get some territory. White extends into the corner to prevent. This is also looking at the second line clamp. So that's why Go Seigen extends on the first line to protect the territory. Black Atari, white connects, black honeys, and white turns over here. When black connects, Go Seigen plays the Atari over here to prevent black from pulling the stone back. And at this point, Kosugi tries to come into Go Seigen's territory over here, but white takes, and black decides to play the Keima, trying to break the territory over here. We can see that white has territory all over the place, and black's job this game is first to survive everywhere, and then just try to come into white's territory all over the place. right? And I feel like a lot of my viewers might have similar feeling when you're playing against someone who's really strong and someone who plays this kind of cosmic style, is that you always have to break in, break in, break in, and you always feel like you don't have enough. And this is exactly how black feels in this game as well. And we all kind of know the reason is because earlier you didn't counterattack, you didn't play, following the principles. Go Seigen now plays the Honey Tiger's Mouth, preventing the clamp on the second line. Black pushes and white pushes on top. Here black decided to play the triangle. Looks weird, but because if you block, white has the opportunity to clamp into the second line. So black doesn't want that, so black plays the triangle, and white attaches, protecting center. Black Atari, white plays the jump, and black extends. White connects. Black plays the honey, looking at a double Atari. White obviously connects on the second line to prevent that. Black honeys, white plays Kosumi, and black peeps, white connects. And here, Kosugi decides to attach over here, looking for a co-fight. But the goal of this co-fight is not very clear because white stone's not really in trouble. White takes, and they go for a couple co-threats. And at this point, they didn't really go for a couple of co-threats, right? At this point, when Go Seigen plays the peep over here, I think Kosugi decided he's had enough, right? This code doesn't really mean much because white can pretty much like get back through here anytime, right? So even if black wins this code, it doesn't mean anything, and Kosugi knows that. But when Go Seigen plays over here, first of all, I'm not even sure if black can win this code, right? Go Seigen's probably gonna win this code because you have so many groups that I can challenge, right? And I can find a lot of code threats. But more importantly, Go Seigen is just ahead on the board right now, right? Even if there was no Komi, this is still a leading game for white. So this is the very famous 16 Soldiers game because of its unconventional start, where Go Seigen is just playing in the center, and no one has seen that before. And this has inspired a lot of like Japanese player. I think even in modern time, I've seen games played like that, where one player, professional player, just play a bunch of moves in the center, and their win rate isn't that bad either. And that's the really cool part. And throughout this game, we can see that Kosugi has played very cautious, but of course very slow as well. There are many places where we saw that Kosugi didn't follow the principle of counterattack, and therefore he fell behind because of it. And against someone like Go Seigen, there's just no chance if you play passive and if you don't follow principles. So I hope you guys enjoyed this game and learned something. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel because I regularly post videos like these. And I'll see you guys in the next one.